Welcome to this explainer, where we're diving deep beneath the surface of a condition that affects literally billions of people. We're going to radically reframe how we understand migraines today. Because if you're out there thinking a migraine is just a really bad headache, well, get ready to have your perspective entirely shifted. We're exploring the iceberg of migraines, uncovering the massive, hidden burdens and the very real systemic risks lurking just below the waterline.
To really establish the sheer scale of this issue right out of the gate, consider this staggering number, 14.4%. That is the percentage of the entire global population that suffers from migraines. We are talking about over 1 billion people here. It's one of the leading causes of disability worldwide, and yet somehow it remains incredibly misunderstood. It is definitely not just some niche medical issue. It's a full-blown global health crisis hiding right in plain sight.
Section 1. Beyond a simple headache. The tip of the iceberg.
Okay, let's start by looking at what society actually sees. That highly visible, painful tip of the iceberg, before we plunge into the much deeper, unseen waters. A really comprehensive 2019 review published in the Journal of Headache and Pain identified 6 main themes of migraine burden. They looked at prevalence, overall impact, work and school impact, family impact, interictal burden, and disease costs. What this massive, wide net tells us is that the true impact extends far, far beyond just the physical pain of the headache itself. The head pain, it's really just the alarm bell. The fire is actually affecting every single room in the house.
Section 2. The hidden daily toll. Below the surface.
So let's plunge a little deeper into those invisible daily tolls. These are the massive impacts that often go completely unnoticed by employers, policymakers, and sometimes, heartbreakingly, even our own families. When we think of workplace impact, we almost immediately think of absenteeism, right? Calling in sick. And yes, sufferers average 4.4 lost workdays annually. But look at the stark contrast with presenteeism, which averages 11.4 days worked with reduced productivity. That is over 2 full work weeks a year of pushing through brain fog, terrible light sensitivity, and nausea, just trying to do a job while neurologically impaired. The true economic and personal burden isn't just the days you miss, it's the sheer exhaustion of working while you're sick, and that costs the economy and the individual's well-being significantly more in the long run.
And you know, the burden doesn't just magically clock out at 5 p.m. This invisible toll heavily strains households. In fact, research shows that most of the limitations reported by patients were referred to caring for and dealing with their children. That is incredibly powerful. The absolute deepest emotional impacts of migraines are often on a parent's ability to simply be present and care for their kids. The guilt and the emotional toll of that, it's measurable, and it's a massive part of this iceberg that we rarely ever discuss.
Section 3. Suffering between the attacks. The deep waters.
We've talked a lot about the attack itself, but what actually happens when the pain stops? Are sufferers truly in the clear to just resume a normal, highly functional life? Well, there's a very common assumption that between attacks, migraine patients are perfectly healthy. Because it's an episodic disease, right? Actually, the clinical data tells a completely different and, frankly, a far more concerning story. The crucial point here is this concept called the interictal burden. Basically, this defines the period between attacks. Studies show that anywhere between 10 to 26% of episodic migraine sufferers still experience lower mobility, high sleepiness, and stubbornly low vigor even when they aren't in active pain. It's like their bodies are either desperately recovering from the last neurological storm or they're quietly ramping up for the next one. They're never truly off the hook.
Section 4. Migraines and stroke risk. The hidden danger. Shifting our focus away from just daily quality of life, a massive 2024 meta-analysis revealed a terrifying long-term health implication. Migraine patients have a 2.04 combined odds ratio for stroke. What that means is they are more than twice as likely to suffer a stroke compared to people without migraines. For women, that risk is 2.26 times higher. But the absolute most shocking statistic here is for young adults under 45. They face a massive 2.39 times higher risk. We so often think of stroke as strictly an older person's disease, but for young people with migraines, the cardiovascular risk is terrifyingly real.
Now you might be wondering, does the type of migraine matter? Well, it does. Those who experience visual or sensory auras have the highest stroke correlation, a 2.32 odds ratio. But it's incredibly vital to note that even migraines without aura significantly elevate your cardiovascular danger, sitting at a 1.77 odds ratio. You absolutely cannot ignore the risk just because you don't see flashing lights before an attack. Both types firmly signal underlying vascular vulnerabilities.
Section 5. The power of prevention.
fighting the current. Because the systemic daily burden is just so pervasive and those long-term stroke risks are so dangerously high, we have to pivot. We need to look at how we empower patients to fight this current and build a strong defense. And this brings us right to prophylaxis. That's preventative treatment like valproate therapy evaluated in Cochrane reviews, used to proactively reduce the frequency and severity of attacks rather than just treating the pain once it's already started. Major medical reviews prove these are absolutely crucial now that we finally understand the full, life-threatening scope of the disease. It's not just about stopping a headache anymore, it is about protecting the brain long-term.
Ultimately, understanding this whole iceberg model gives us a roadmap. It tells us that we must validate patients' unseen struggles, we absolutely have to support impacted families who are carrying that invisible weight of caregiving, and above all, we must prioritize medical prevention for long-term health. We have to stop treating migraines as some minor inconvenience and start treating them as the systemic neurological condition they truly are.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Knowing what we know now, knowing about the presenteeism, that exhausting interictal burden, the elevated stroke risk, the incredibly heavy family toll, knowing that this isn't just a simple headache, how must our workplaces and healthcare systems change? How must our society adapt to support the over 1 billion people navigating this hidden reality every single day? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.